again, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming despite the inclement weather outside. Um, you know, we are at a time when we're undergoing a lot as a country, and so actually that sets the tone for this briefing. While I'll be talking about the financial performance of SM Investments, I won't go through all of the details because I'd like to give special attention to the relief operations that we're giving to the communities that we actually serve among the different SM companies. Now, before I start, I'd like to introduce the members of the panel. We have Mr. Harley C., the President of SM Investments. Mr. Jose Shaw, our EVP and CFO. Mr. Jeff Lim, EVP and CFO of SM Prime Holdings. We have Jojo Mendiola, the President for SM Department Stores. We have Joey Mendoza, President of SM Supermarkets and Save More. We have Dave Rafael, he's a SVP for Commercial Properties Group. Mr. Ray Villar, President of EVP of SM Hotels and Conventions. Chito Reyes, SVP and Investor Relations Officer of BDO. Well, Rose is coming soon, so Ms. Rose Qua is the President of SMDC. And we have a special guest, Ms. Connie Angeles, who's from SM Foundation. So I'll be introducing her properly later because she's going to give a presentation. Okay, in terms of the financial performance of SM Investments for the first half, revenues actually went up by 14%. This compares with 10.2% the previous year. So this is well within the historical performance of SM over the last 5 years, and also within our target. Net income increased by 13%, again, well within our targets, and the main drivers of which are the banks and the property group. No? If you look at the 5-year history of our income profile, back in 2008, the property group only contributed about 3.8%. As of the first half of this year, it's already contributing about 16.7%. And that's largely because of the growth of our residential business under SM Development Corporation. As you know, they've already reported their first half, and that continues to surprise us in terms of the pre-selling performance. I think in terms of units sold, they sold about 8,000 units, which increased by about 70%. And that's a big surprise to everyone. The banks also performed well, and they now contribute about 30.9% to net income, whereas back in 2008, they were only contributing about 16.9%. Okay. And then the rest of the income came from our traditional businesses, which are the malls and the retail business. In terms of net margin, our net margin for the first half stood at 10.4%, which is quite similar to what we had first half last year. ROE of about 14.2% on an annualized basis. And total assets went up by about 64%. Now, I'll just go briefly on the retail business because they have not actually reported their performance, since this is the non-listed part of SM Investments. So their first half actually first half sales increased by 8.3% compared to 7.5% last year. In absolute terms, it's about 73 billion pesos in terms of their sales, compared with 68 billion last year. In terms of net income growth, that grew by 7.8% to 2.7 billion pesos, compared with only 2.5 billion last year. Now, in terms of the number of stores they had as of end June, they have a total now of about 183 stores, of which 43 are department stores, 34 supermarkets, 73 are Save More stores, and 33 are hypermarkets. And for the period, actually for 6 months, they increased the number of stores by 14, of which Save More accounted for the bulk, which is 8 stores. Brief, so I'll end with that. We'll be posting the whole presentation in the website, so you can refer to that later on. But at this point, I'd like to actually give the floor to Connie, who represents SM Foundation. SM Foundation is the CSR arm of SM Investments. And it's our advocacy group, which actually is supported by the whole group or all of the SM companies. No? We have 3 major advocacies, which are education, health, and livelihood. Under education, we have a scholarship program for college students. And then for livelihood, we provide free training to farmers. And so far, since they started these programs, we have supported over 2,000 scholars and over 4,000 farmers. For the farmers, it's interesting because their produce actually are sold in our SM stores. And then the health advocacy has 2 types of activities or major activities, which are the medical missions in the wellness centers. And that's what Connie spearheads. But she also spearheads the Operation Tulong, which is an emergency response activity that they do whenever there's a calamity. So I'll give the floor now to Connie Angeles, our famous officer in SM Foundation. She's known to be very committed in civic programs, and as I think everyone knows her as the Kapwa Ko Mahal Ko host in the past. No? So now she's very much dedicated in servicing SM Foundation and its beneficiaries.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to present to you SM's emergency response in times of disaster and calamities. It is known as Operation Tulong Express. SM Foundation, as what Ms. Coras mentioned, is the socio-civic arm of the SM group of companies, which, aside from its several advocacy projects, also implements special projects when the need arises. Operation Tulong Express is the Foundation's emergency response to victims of natural calamities and disasters. Our mechanism is in place that it is ready to give immediate assistance in times of calamities and other emergencies. At the height of the recent flooding in many parts of the country, brought about by weeks of heavy rains, SM again manifested its responsiveness and readiness to extend assistance via distribution of relief goods, which started Tuesday, August 7 of last week. Operation Tulong Express relief operations was immediately activated in several SM malls. SM Supermarket or Hypermarket makes available the goods for immediate distribution to affected communities. Early beneficiaries of the still ongoing relief operations were Novaliches, Marikina, Pasay, around the vicinity of the Mall of Asia, Santa Mesa, and Fairview. 2 days after, SM malls, through concerted efforts with personnel and volunteers, went on a simultaneous distribution which benefited the following: Calamba, Marikina, Valenzuela, Marilao, Rosario, and many other affected communities where we have our presence benefited as well. When calamity strikes, data and other reports are first obtained from the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council, or the NDRRMC. Also, from the Department of Social Welfare and Development, the DOH, as well as from the local government units. To be able to serve fast and effectively distribute the relief goods, the SM Foundation and the malls closely coordinate with LGU's Social Welfare Office, the arm that identifies the affected beneficiaries, and the barangay officials of the communities. For an orderly distribution, stubs corresponding to the number of relief goods to be distributed are issued. These stubs are handed out by the Social Welfare Office to the beneficiaries, which they will use to claim at the SM distribution sites. Stubs are then given back to SM personnel as the goods are claimed. Only areas which were not accessible at that time were left for a later date for relief assistance. To date, SM Foundation have distributed 44,200 relief goods, benefiting 44,200 families in a span of only 4 days and still counting. At the onset of a calamity, Operation Tulong booths are set up in SM malls, enjoining shoppers to donate and participate. In the past years, Caritas Manila has been a partner. All mall collections in kind are turned over to them for sorting and distribution. Caritas, in turn, sends a post-project report. It is a fact that there is an element of health in everything that we do, especially in times of calamities. The health and well-being of community members are of prime importance, that alongside with the relief operations for the victims of the continuous heavy downpour, SM mobile clinics are deployed and are being utilized to serve. With the help of volunteer doctors, pharmaceutical companies, teachers and students, volunteers, Operation Tulong Express medical missions have been conducted in the following areas since August 9 last week. We were in the 4 barangays in Marikina, 3 barangays in Taytay, 5 barangays in Valenzuela, 2 in Novaliches, and 2 barangays in Fairview and Quezon City. Operation Tulong Express medical missions are usually conducted when we have determined from the Department of Health the illnesses that are common in the affected communities. Usually, and more often, cough and cold preparations, medicines for diarrhea, and topical ointments for skin diseases, and doxycycline for anti-leptospirosis, a dreaded disease during flooding brought about by rat urine, which comes in contact with open wounds, are the drugs of choice that are brought to the areas. Relief operations and medical missions are still ongoing where it is needed and where waters have subsided. From August 9 to 12 of this year, 12,600 individuals from 18 areas were served by the medical missions. As SM Foundation adheres to the maxim, people helping people, the Foundation's emergency response team is always right where we are most needed. As in the past, Operation Tulong Express efforts were very much evident. Many affected provinces all over the country benefit from SM's benevolence in times of calamities, such as during the aftermath of Typhoons Ondoy, Falcon, Pedring, Kiel, and Sendong. Nothing seems impossible when the greatest desire and intention is to help. For when the roads are not passable, the C family lend their chopper to ferry doctors and medicines to the site, as in the case of the Real Quezon landslide. Furthermore, it may be worth mentioning that we are among the first, if not the first NGO to establish a blood bank for SM employees. In times of emergencies, employees and family members can avail of blood free of charge. Last year, at the height of the dengue season, which is usually from July to December, collected blood from SM Investments Corporation employees, or SMIC, that were deposited in our exclusive blood bank proved to be beneficial not only to employees and their relatives who needed emergency transfusions for dengue and other needs. The excess collected blood were then donated to government hospitals and have helped save lives of dengue patients. SM Foundation donated not only blood but IV fluids as well to several government hospitals. Last April of this year, a bloodletting activity with SM Engineering Department had been conducted. Excess blood from SMDD personnel shall be donated to government hospitals where these are urgently needed by dengue patients. Disasters do not warn, they destroy. Unmindful of one's safety in times of calamities, as we go about doing our task of helping people, we believe that great strength comes from unity of minds and efforts. I would like to enjoin everyone to be an SM Foundation volunteer. For more information, you may contact SM Foundation at those telephone numbers, or you can visit us at our website. Thank you.
Now, first, I'd like to ask a few questions for Mr. Shaw, because you might be wondering where the money is coming from. Perhaps, Mr. Shaw, you can shed light on how we donate to SM Foundation as a group.
As a group, we require all our subsidiary to donate certain percentages of their annual net income to the common fund that will support the activities of SM Foundation. On top of that, we do have some partnership with certain of our suppliers, with certain of our tenants, and in fact, some of the investment bankers. No? And this is an invitation to you people out here that we accept such kind of donation for the flood victims also.
I'd also like to give the floor now to each of the business heads who are here, and they're actually prepared to talk about three things. No, one is their disaster prevention program, so that you're more or less aware of how they manage their risks as far as calamities are concerned. Second is their disaster response efforts. You know, if they're doing anything over and above what SM Foundation is doing. And third is their business continuity plans, because I've also gotten questions about if, you know, whether or not there were stores or malls that were affected by the recent flood. So I'll give the floor now to each of the business heads to discuss these three things.
Two of our stores actually went underwater. This would be Del Monte Corner Araneta, that's a Seymour, and also our Santa Mesa branch. You'd be glad to know that SM Seymour in Del Monte Araneta reopened about an hour ago, and we're very pleased to be back in service to the community in that part of Quezon City. Our store there is at 2 floors. The first floor, where the selling area is, was completely underwater. We only had 3 feet of airspace left, and we lost about 25 million pesos worth of inventory. But because our people were well prepared, equipment, point of sale, records and documents, they were already safeguarded. Fortunately, no loss of lives because they were also well prepared, and we had engagements with the barangay and the disaster group of Quezon City, so that when this thing happened, they were safely evacuated. Our people were very heroic, to say the least, in terms of making sure that these things were safeguarded. At the same time, when the waters receded, they exerted extra special effort to make sure that the store would be ready in a span of 1, 2, 3, about 4 or 5 days after all this had happened. You can go to the store. It smells good and clean. The stocks on the shelves are fresh. Our suppliers were also very efficient and cooperative, and they provided us with enough stocks aside from supplementary stocks from our other stores, which did not go under. The Santa Mesa branch is another story, however. We're still trying to clean up the entire basement of the mall where our supermarket is located. I have some pictures here, but unfortunately, it's not, it can't be shown on the screen, but it would take some time for us to be able to repair this. The repair would be more substantial, but this would only be in terms of the physical aspect. Again, in terms of our valuable equipment, in terms of our records, in terms of the cash, these have all been safeguarded. Our people are safe, and they've also exerted efforts to make sure that we could get back, hopefully, before September is over, assuming everything goes well. All over the metro, which was affected by heavy rains and the flooding, fortunately, our Marikina store, which is located in the riverbanks, did not go under this time. The waters were not that high enough, but we were also prepared for that. Our stores in Uptown Rizal, Angono, Taytay, and Morong, which are Seymour stores, these were all sandbagged beforehand, which helped prevented the flood waters from coming in from outside the street. So, in general, we're back in business except for our Santa Mesa, store. This again is due to how our people had been practicing beforehand in anticipation of the rainy weather, and you could say that okay, misfortunes happen, but we were well prepared for this. Thank you very much.
Just to
On top,
Sir-
on top of what is the internal happening, what have you done to the communities that is affected by your store?
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. For our Uptown Rizal stores, for example, even before we liaised with SM Foundation, the local government units actually went to our stores already asking for assistance, which we did give. And directly, our stores were authorized to donate calamity packs, which consist of essentially food items to the surrounding communities. As Ms. Connie mentioned earlier, most of the calamity packs which SM Foundation is distributing right now have been packed in our stores. In fact, in the stores which were semi-flooded, they were still working just to make sure that these items would get out and be distributed.
Yeah, actually, I was gonna ask. I mean, make a comment because if you're wondering how we're able to distribute 40,000 relief goods in 4 days, that's because of the efficiency of the distribution center of the retail business. They have a distribution warehouse in Sukat that can do these things, and in addition to that, some of the organizations that are also sending relief items, they also get it from SM. Connie, would you like to share what's inside the relief bag?
These are basically we have the essential items that are needed by the flood victims: water, bread, canned goods like sardines, noodles. Sometimes, if lucky, we put in coffee. But more often, those are the things, those are the stuff that are inside the bags.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm Jojo Mendiola, and I'm in charge of the SM department stores. Two of our stores, namely Marilao and Santa Mesa, were not able to open in August 7 because of accessibility issues as well as manpower. Now, in August 7, we closed some of the stores at 3 o'clock, some of the stores at 7, and some of the stores at 9 o'clock. Essentially, when we were talking about closing the store, the issue really was it's not really profits that we're here for. We are here to service the community because we actually have some customers in the store buying some replenishment items. In August 8, we were back to normal, and in August 10, all of our stores were able to open. Now, as a matter of discipline, actually our employees try to come to work during these times of calamity because they know that we really try to open the store to serve our customers. But of course, we do not let them go like in August 7 at the height of the storm because of safety issues. That's why we decided early we selected some stores such as Marikina and all of the flood areas to close earlier at 3 o'clock and all the rest at 7 and 9 o'clock. we're back to normal, and I guess it's business as usual for the department store.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jojo and Joey have actually stated most of the things that we've been doing, but let me just clarify like some things. No, one is that we were getting actually queries during the calamity whether we penalize tenants that will not open during those times. I would like to again mention this, that we don't penalize tenants that are not able to open because of calamities like what we had last week. In fact, during August 6 to 9, we had about 7,207 tenants that were not able to open because of problems like accessibility, their employees cannot go in. Now, as Jojo has mentioned, we really would like the malls to be open even if we are in disaster like situation, not really more for like the business, but to be more of service to the community. Again, like what happened during the calamity last week, we allowed cars to be parked inside our shopping centers overnight without charging them parking fees. This is basically to help, again, nearby communities that are flooded. During that incident, we had about 1,500 cars parked in several of our shopping centers just to make sure that they're safe. No? We also allow our malls, especially in critical areas, to become like evacuation centers or distribution centers so we could help distribute relief goods to the nearby areas that are severely affected by these calamities. Now, in SM Prime, we actually have like 3 stages of calamity preparedness or disaster preparedness and business continuity programs that will address from the very start all the way up to post. Now, from the outset, let me just state that all our developments, the shopping centers, are insured against all risks, including acts of God like typhoon, earthquake, and we also insure our business in what we call business interruption coverage. So even like what Joey had mentioned, Santa Mesa is now closed in terms of the basement because of the flooding, and it will take us, I think, about 45 days to get that back into business. But the ground and the second floor will be open. But even with the non-opening for 45 days, we will be able to actually claim for business interruption. And apart from this, as part of our business continuity program, because Center Point has been affected now twice in 2 years, Ondoy and this time, we analyzed and studied, and we think that it could happen again because the water is actually coming from Ramon Magsaysay and the creek. Because in the basement, if you're familiar with SM Center Point, there's a ramp going down, and there's a few parking areas used for delivery, and that's where the waters are coming in to the mall. Now, our design group is now looking into sealing that off, meaning it will be like a pail where water, even if the streets are flooded, it will not go into the basement anymore because we will seal that. However, there will be no access now from the basement. So people have to go to the ground floor, and if they want to go to the basement, then they have to just take the escalator going down. So these are part of the things that we actively do. Apart from ensuring that the malls are strategically located, the engineering group of SM Prime, we actually carefully study the location and of each and every mall, and we try to make sure that the design and the structure are compliant, no? And that it will help the community that surrounds the shopping center. A case in point is Masinag, because that area is usually flooded even not during typhoons. No? So what we have done there was that we build a rain, we call it rain catchment facility that can actually store about 17 million liters of water. And we spend about, I think about 25 to 30 million pesos to build this. But like the last typhoon, that area is not really flooded. And when we look at the rate, the catchment facility, it was just a little bit over half. Okay, so after the typhoon, we just had to release it slowly, and therefore creating that environment wherein the communities do not experience flooding. Okay, I think the other one would be Marikina, where the mall is like built on stilt, so that when water comes in, it will flow to the river because it's not being blocked because it's built on stilts. So we are a very responsible developer that we look at the environment in terms of our development to make sure that minimal impact is actually produced out of the development. Let me also state that we have actually emergency response team and manuals for all our shopping centers to help our people prepare, no? And understand, like during calamities, what they need to do, what numbers to call, and what type of security measures to put in place. We conduct like annual earthquake, fire drills. We have a group of people that are specially trained on emergency responses to make sure that we are able to cascade this to all our people in all our locations. We also have what we call a national emergency council, and this is headed by our president, Mr. Han Si. When like calamity strikes and there are several malls affected, there's a command center that is in the Max building that we have. That's our office in the Mall of Asia area, where all the major heads will have to be there, and those that cannot go in will have to be on standby to make sure that we are able to make the call in terms of what to do in like opening, closing of our shopping center. We had this in place some time ago, and we continue to have this because it's very effective in terms of responding to calamities. I guess that's about it.
Actually, in addition to calamities, the malls are also very prepared to address, other risks like acts of terrorism, because of the, these increasing probabilities of these things happening anywhere, not just at SM malls, but anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world.
We're actually also covered in terms of insurance for terrorism and sabotage.
Well, BDO has its own BDO Foundation, and it works closely also with SM Foundation on a number of programs. I guess the main objective of the foundation is really to carry out BDO's CSR objectives, and these are really our way of trying to give back to the communities that we serve. We try to develop communities through advocacy programs. We want to be able to help empowered, marginalized sectors of society, and also it's a way for BDO employees to serve their communities directly through volunteer work. I think, yeah. In terms of the objectives, I think, as I mentioned, these are the four main objectives of our CSR program. And if we go to specific areas that the foundation is working on, these are in the areas of shelter, sustainable livelihood, education, healthcare, environmental awareness, and disaster response. The involvement of BDO effectively comes in the form of either financing or funding for the foundation. It can be in the form of land that we contribute, let's say for conversion into a livelihood or a livelihood program, or for a resettlement of, let's say, displaced families from calamities. It could be in the form of medical equipment that, let's say, could be used for some health centers. And lastly, also, it's as I mentioned, it's also a way for employees of the bank to personally share their expertise, like in the accounting for farmers. They can help teach specific sectors. They can share their skills with specific sectors. So in a nutshell, that's more or less how BDO implements its CSR platform. And in terms of the bank's situation over the past week, we were fortunate that while a number of branches were affected, they are more or less they're just basically a handful that are still not operational, but most of them have been converted already. I mean, they're up and running already. And during those times when they were not operational, we made it a point that we have a business continuity program, so we make it a point that the clients of a branch that is closed because of inaccessibility is serviced by another branch, a nearby branch. So that allows continuing access to our customers, which is our primary focus. So we're still assessing also the impact of the calamity on our clients. We're doing a portfolio review right now, and but it's still at the early stage. We're not in a position yet to say which specific industries or client segments of the bank have been affected in a major way. But we're developing that assessment already.
Cora, I think si Ian and Miguel are bored already with the. It looks like they want to ask questions already about the numbers.
No, I think we'll just have two more. We'll have. I'll also give the floor to the property group, Ms. Rose Kwa and Dave, because it's also good for them to understand why is it that Mall of Asia is never flooded when Rojas Boulevard is flooded. No, so I think that speaks about the kind of engineering that SM does to prepare for calamities.
I think one thing very unique about our situation is that we don't we don't provide services that where people just come and go. We actually build communities and homes for the people to stay in, to rest, especially in times of crisis, especially floods and likes. No? So what happened last week opened my eyes to a lot of things about our responsibility to our buyers. Among others, we've always made it a point to buy properties that are in less flood-prone area, and even if they are, we try our best to address these in engineering ways. I think we've done a pretty good job in Meza because this time, I think, while the basement, I'm sorry, Save More, I think, had little water, but it wasn't earth-shaking, no? Like the Ondoy. And I think all of our efforts are always geared towards disaster preparedness. We may not have a CSR policy like the other groups here, but we take it upon ourselves that these are people living in our homes. So we have to make sure our occupants are all cared for, regardless of the situation. So what happened last week was the usual, a little leak here, a little flooding here, brownouts here. So we were able to handle that because the gensets were well stacked. We were able to make sure that the pumps were running, so everything was done. In fact, we also got instructions from our Vice Chairman, Mr. Henry C. Jr., that in case our buyers do have little problems inside their units, we are to go, even if we've already turned over the building to them, we still are to go and assist them because during a time like this, they may not know how to have their units fixed. No? So the instructions was for us to go and check on everybody in all our buildings. But let me just share something that happened in Meza. Save More had to close, so people were clamoring for some basic goods. Save More, and I was just talking to Mr. Harley here about the synergy again of SMDC and Save More because we were able, they were very gracious and they agreed to put out over-the-counter purchases for the buyer. So these are just basic commodities, no? So everybody went away happy. They had candles, they had matches, they had bread, they had water. So everybody was happy. But later on towards the afternoon, we noticed that transportation, of course, was no longer plying the routes. So there were around 90 stranded commuters and 10 stranded Save More employees, whom our people from property management kindly adopted as temporary residents of Mesa. They gave them shelter, and while we couldn't feed everybody, we used what the Filipinos is best known for, the bayanihan system. So we called all the homeowners there who would at least contribute a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And strangely, they were all, these are the guys who bought from Save More, and so they decided to share a little bit of what they got with the people there. Of course, early in the morning, around 4 or 5, when the water receded, a lot of these people disappeared. Now, we may never know who they are, but at least I'm glad to say that when they go home, they would probably tell their family that SM or SMDC took care of us. No? So I think that's also our responsibility. It's not just when there's a calamity, no, just to take care of the building. I think it's taking care of the human being that is our biggest market. No, it's a human factor, be it our own employees or the market out there.
Rose,
Other things we can take care of, the gensets, the pumps, all those things, those are physical, but it's the willingness to serve, I think, and to be able to tap the bayanihan spirit. That I think was the thing that stuck to my mind actually that day. Yes, Cora.
Yeah, how many units have you actually turned over?
For Mesa, I think we've turned over 80, 90%.
No, but in total.
Oh, we've turned over Mesa, that's probably 2,000 plus, 3,000 plus units. Berkeley, another 1-2. We're starting to turn over the first tower of grass, which is 1,500. I just don't have the percentage. Field, a little bit. Chateau, yeah, they're almost there. So I would dare say that we have maybe 8,000 units turned over and ongoing.
Okay.
This year, we'll turn over just another phase, the last phase of C. But next year, we should be turning over maybe over 10,000 units.
Okay.
So these are the people that even after we've turned over, we believe it's our responsibility to go back to them in times of, God forbid it should happen again, something like last week.
The Commercial Properties Group basically handles the Mall of Asia complex as well as the business, the office buildings. So we basically face two challenges now. First, the location of Mall of Asia is such that it's right by the bay. So every time you have a storm or you have a tsunami, you feel the full force of the natural disaster. It's, you know, you're right there. You're right. You feel it right smack hitting you, know. And number two, since most of our tenants, most of our customers are BPOs, you know, BPOs have zero tolerance for business interruption. So in a situation like ours, you can't react to disasters. You actually have to anticipate it, no? Before it happens. And so what have we done? Basically, if you look at the way the Mall of Asia complex was designed, the infrastructure in place, you'd wish that perhaps that's how Metro Manila, perhaps that's the infrastructure that Metro Manila should follow. For example, no, when it was reclaimed, it was elevated so that it's 3 meters above sea mean level. So it'll take how many ondoys before rain can actually go there. The whole system of drainage and interceptor canals are so huge and so large so that when water comes in, they're immediately flushed back right out to Manila Bay. The seawall, even the design of the seawall was designed in such a way that when the waves hit the wall, they're designed in such a way that they bounce back so that they don't go in. So if you noticed, when all that garbage was coming in the Ross Boulevard area, there was no garbage in the Mall of Asia complex. That was because of the wave deflectors. The garbage were bouncing back to the sea. Stuff like that, no. For example, the power, no, the power loop that was designed in the Mall of Asia complex, such that we have redundancy. We have power sources both from Pasay and from Bacoor. So if one loop gets cut off, we're still gonna get power from another loop, so that the power stability is very good, no. The substation in Mall of Asia complex has been classified as priority load. Now, what does this mean? We're like a hospital. If ever Meralco shuts down and they go back, we're first to be brought back to power, just like a hospital. Our buildings, our office buildings, you know, it's reclaimed land, no? So the way the buildings are designed is the pile driving is driven all the way as much as 40 meters down, so that they're really anchored on rock beds, no? So that in case of earthquakes, it's almost as stable, like as if the building was not in reclaimed land. No? And even the, I don't know if you've noticed, no, we've got a lot of aluminum cladding and curtain wall, which did not fly considering how strong the winds were. No, other buildings in Makati and Ortigas, which is far, far away, when you go, all the aluminum claddings have been gone. That's because when we put those curtain walls and aluminum claddings, we pressure test it up to 200 kilometers per hour, so that it'll take a really, really strong wind for those things to be removed. So those are the things that you need to really anticipate and put into the design, rather than just reacting to it when the disaster happens.
Okay, thank you, Dave. So I'd like to open the floor to questions, if there are. Yes, Chea.
The second quarter is what will be your projected number of stores for 2030? The current company's balance sheet is the debt, or rather the cash and debt level. And how has it been compared to
Our same-store sales in Metro Manila was flat. However, in the provincial areas, provincial Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, they were pretty healthy. We had about +4, +5, which is about the industry level. We attribute the Manila performance to the number of competitors that we have. For example, if you take our SM supermarket in the Manila, in our SM Manila Mall, we are surrounded by about close to 29 small, medium, and big competitive supermarkets. So the market in the metro is already not nearing saturation point, but there is a lot of competition, which we believe accounts for the flat performance that we had for the same stores. Oh, sorry. For the new stores to open for the balance of the year, sorry, I have to check my numbers, so indulge with me for a while. Jojo, ikaw muna.
Okay, for the department store, same stores growth was 7.8%, and chain-wide it's 9.5% for the first half. We will be opening the 46th store, Jensan, in September of this year. For next, and Lanang and Lanang, we already opened Jensan last week. So we will end the year at 46 stores. Well, as far as the new store openings for 2014, we will just take the mall openings of SM Prime. I believe they are looking at 3 malls next year, so we will be opening 3 department stores.
And just to go back to your question, we will be opening at least 15 more stores towards the end of the year. So.
How about for next year?
For next year, plus or minus 30, depending on how many stores the mall will allow us to open. But for Save More and for Hypermarket, which are standalones really, we have more flexibility. So we're looking at 25 to 30 stores.
Still on the retail. So far, the retail sales have been, the growth for the second quarter appears to be the weakest since 2010. So basically what you're saying is, I'm correct in saying that you're attributing the weakness or slower growth in retail sales to competition. Because it's about 6.2% growth for the second quarter, and the last time we've done something that is something like the third quarter of 2010, when government spending was actually decelerating at that time. So, am I correct in interpreting?
The biggest factor really would be the competitive situation in Metro Manila. So let me qualify that. In the Metro, yes, the competitive situation is getting more and more exciting. In the provincial areas, there we are growing very healthy.
But total sales, Joey, for Save More, total sales increased by, if I'm not mistaken, about 34%, right? So its growth, the growth is really coming from expansion at this point, and once there's a bit more stability in the markets, then we can expect same-store sales to also stabilize over time.
Cora, our store sales for Save More is 43%.
Up 43%. Yeah.
Well, for the department store, our growth for the second quarter is low because our base the previous year is quite high. No? But to date, year to date, we are 100.4% to target. So we're there. Now, for same stores, it's 7.8. I think that's a very healthy figure.
Very healthy for department store. Historically, we've only been seeing that growth at about 3 to 5%. So this year is quite extraordinary for department stores.
How much of your sales in the two stores are coming from
For the department store, it's 54%.
Just wondering what the engineering intervention in Santa Mesa will do to the surrounding community, because that's a large footprint that you would have to water that will have to be displaced in an area that's already flooding like above.
Actually, in terms of like flooding, I don't think that we'll be able to prevent flooding on those streets. No, what we're trying to do is we're trying to, in a way, prevent damage to the mall, like in the future. Because if we don't do that, we may have to have that experience again if we have the likes of Ondoy or like what happened last week happening again. So it's also trying to basically, protect that business there, as well as the employees and the people that are working there. Because to us, we actually don't want malls to be closed for like 2 months or 45 days, because you can just imagine the people also, no, that are working in those areas, they will not be able to report to work for like more than a month.
How much will you be claiming from your insurance, and how much would be losses in?
We have not actually completed the evaluation yet. We're still trying to estimate the numbers. But since last week, the insurance companies and the adjusters have been in our shopping centers almost every day.
What was the experience during Ondoy? Because that's the same store that was flooded.
No. Okay. The main difference is during Ondoy, the water actually went up to the ceiling. So when it goes up to the ceiling, the damage will be more because you have the wiring and all the lighting that are affected. Now, this time, it's actually not up to the ceiling. So damage should actually be not more than half of what we had before. So it should be lower. And there's only one mall that is affected, which is Santa Mesa, whereas Ondoy, we also had Rosales, Marikina affected.
I wanted to share with you the reason why we have this presentation today, and it's not the traditional presentation of all financial, is because we wanted to let everybody know that this is not just hitting our numbers, but it's also showing you what we do when they're in times of calamity. So it's a little bit untraditional today, but then the figures are there. We're showing you that we're still hitting the numbers, and we believe we'll be able to continue the trend and be able to sustain it. On top of that, we'd like to be able to show you that we also care for the community.
Yeah. I think that said, we're also continuing with the expansion program. There's no change, no, in any of the expansion. So we just really wanted to focus on the CSR operations of SM today because, the time demands us to talk about it. Okay. If there are no more questions, I'd like to thank everyone for coming today, and please stay safe. There's still typhoon coming, and